facilitator, Keenan. Keenan's amazing. She's here. Keenan, hop on right here. Keenan is amazing, and she's really one of the most amazing artists I've seen in the past 10 years. In my own experience, I've seen different artists do different stuff. She has this beautiful connection with nature. It's so awesome. So Keenan, thank you for coming to Cosmic Lab. Super excited to have you.
Yay, thank you so much for having me, and hi everybody, welcome. Today we're going to work with some eco clay. So this is all stuff you can make from home. Everything's in your kitchen already, so it's super easy. And let's get started. All right, so all you need is flour, boom, and salt, boom. So we're taking these natural resources as well as maybe a little bit of oil. That's optional if you want it to be a little bit more Play-Doh-y, but let's start mixing. So we have our mixing bowl. I'll turn it down here so you can see what I'm doing with my hands. And then so we're gonna take about half a cup of water and we're gonna pour it into the bowl. So check it out. Alrighty. And now we're gonna take 1 cup of flour. We're gonna take our nice flour over here. And I already measured how many is in this cup. So if you have a measuring cup, that's even better. Alrighty, so we got 1 cup of flour. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. There we go. Boom. And we're gonna toss it right in there. Little sound effects. And now we're gonna add the salt. And this is cool because it's a natural mineral and it makes it nice and hard and grainy. So this is what's gonna kind of make it solidify. So when we stick it out in the sun, it'll bake. So let's get started. And for this one, we're gonna do half a cup as well of salt. So that's a lot of salt. Bam. Alrighty. So let's toss it in. All right. And if you want more of like a Play-Doh-y kind of fun consistency that won't dry as quickly, we can put a little bit of vegetable oil inside of it. And we do that with just 1 little teaspoon. So we're gonna grab our oil, grab our little spoon, and we're gonna put, whoops, I poured a little much. So it's gonna be a little doughy. It won't make a huge difference, but I'll save the excess in there. Alrighty, so now we are all set. I'm gonna turn it down again so you can see what I'm doing. Now, one of the rules, if you're gonna start working with clay, is you wanna have a nice powdery surface to work on. Otherwise, it's just gonna stick. And you don't want that, because then everything you create, you're gonna have to pry up. So that's not fun. So let's do this. We're gonna sprinkle it on like snow. Pat it down. And the fun thing about clay is you want to get messy. The messier, the better. So if your hands are nice and messy, then you're doing it right. Let's get it all nice and messy. And now, with our hands, let's get really messy. So I'm gonna lift this up so you can see a little better. Alrighty. So we're just gonna spin it around with our hands. So if you have a spoon or a fork or anything you want to play with, that's cool too. I highly recommend hands because I just think that's more fun. Another reason, parents, if you're watching, this helps hand-eye coordination. So motor skills, dexterity, that's really great for kids. So, and also it's just fun and playful. And this is actually edible too, so it's totally non-toxic and super friendly. So now that we got a little ball going, you can see it's starting to come together. We might need to squish it around a little bit more. But I'm gonna put it now onto the table. Alrighty. So let's flatten it out. And today, while we're flattening, let's think about what inspires us. So on your day-to-day, when you wake up, you know, when you brush your teeth, you go in the shower, what are you thinking about that you enjoy, that makes you want to get up in the morning, that you love to do, that, you know, makes you smile? And whatever that is, what can we do with art to kind of bring that to life? Maybe, you know, let's say your dog makes you smile and you love playing with your dog and your dog is your best friend. Maybe with clay, we can make a dog. Or, you know, if flowers, the smell of a rose is your favorite thing, we can make roses and we can paint them and we can make them as pretty as we want and however we want, because there are no mistakes when you're playing with clay. You can do whatever you want. It's totally your world, and whatever inspires you is perfect. So let's see how we're looking now. It should feel like Play-Doh. If it has the consistency of Play-Doh, then you're doing it right. If it's a little too wet, then you just add a little bit more flour. And if it's a little too dry, just add a little bit of water. And if you want, I would recommend having a little glass of water nearby, because we're going to use that moving forward to kind of smooth out our rough edges. So today, something that inspires me is nature. I love being outdoors. It brings me peace and it centers me, and it just makes me feel connected to everything around me. So today I'm going to make mushrooms and snails, because those are two fun parts of nature that are so cool and for so many reasons. So if you want to join me, feel free to make what I'm making, or if you have something else that inspires you, I encourage you to work on that. Because like I said, there are no mistakes, and whatever you make is perfect. All right, guys. So let's flatten this puppy out. With our hands, we get it nice and wide, like a big full moon. Da, 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 da. There we go. So we're trying to level out the bumps. So if we have little mountains on our plane here, we just want to push them down so it's like a nice flat desert. Using a lot of nature references, because that's what inspires me today. Alrighty. I'm gonna hop on my knees here. Okay. So now, I'm gonna cut this piece. If you have a parent next to you, they can do this for you, or if they're supervising you, you can cut it yourself with them. So we're just gonna cut like this. Da-da. So we're gonna take about a third. So a third looks like this. A third means we're cutting it into 3 pieces. So whoop, whoop, we're taking those away. I'm just gonna use this guy. Looks like a tortilla packet. And then we're gonna flatten him out even more. All right. Now another good reason to play with clay and to work with clay is because you can express yourself however you want. So this is a safe place for you. If there's something that's maybe on your heart or in your head or in your soul, and it's hard for you to put into words, but you have this feeling and you want to articulate it in a different way, art is actually a language. So when people hear music or they see a painting, something is translated to them without words. And that's the power of art. That's what makes it so cool. So we're going to do that today. Alrighty. Here we go. So now, with this piece, nice and flattened again, I'm going to cut it again in half. So that's what 2 halves look like. All right, so these 2 halves are going to make my snail. So the first piece, now that it's like this, I'm going to roll it like this. So that's what it looks like. I'm just going to roll it until it gets nice and flat. I'm gonna pinch it a little bit so it's all the same width. So all the same wideness, kind of roll it out. And one fun thing is like when you're rolling something, you want to stretch it, you just widen your fingers slowly and it'll stretch open for you. Like this. Cool. All right, can you guess what I'm gonna make with this? Maybe you don't see it just yet, but it's coming. So this part is gonna be a fun part of the snail. This part is gonna be the shell. And you're probably like, how is that gonna be the shell? I don't see it. I know, but here we go. Now I'm gonna take my trusty water that I have next to me here. I'll put a little bit on it because it's starting to get dry. Because something our hands do is they absorb the moisture from the clay. So you'll see as you're working with it, you're like, huh, why is this turning into sand? It's because your hand is stealing all the moisture. So here we go. Now that we put a little bit of water on it, it almost has like a glue texture on it. And I'm gonna start from the very end, and I'm gonna just turn it inward like that, okay? And I'm gonna keep rolling. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Nice, are you with me so far? Awesome. So now you should see it. And now does that look more like a snail shell? Boom. It also looks like possibly a little shell from the beach too, like those cool curly ones. So I'm just tucking in the side here. Because it's a little messed up, see? And like I said, there are no mistakes. It's just supposed to be fun. That's the other thing. If you start to get hard on yourself, when it comes to art, you're not letting yourself fully express what you're feeling and what you want to translate. So give yourself a little break because this is your time to make mistakes, be silly, have fun, and create something out of thin air that's never existed before. And you brought it to life, which is pretty cool. All right. So we're gonna leave this guy on the side here. Boom. And now we're gonna come back to our other half. All right? And I'm gonna just turn this guy in like that. Boom, boom, boom. So he looks like a croissant. He looks pretty yummy. And now I'm gonna put a little bit of water. And whatever you're creating, I'd love to see it. So if you're making, you know, the moon, the stars, the dog, or even, you know, someone you love, if you're trying to sculpt them, that's pretty cool. Just share it with us because we'd love to see it. And I'm sure it's awesome. All right. Another thing to do whenever you're creating art, because art is a mindful practice. And what that means is that it connects you to something deeper than yourself, and it lets you kind of express yourself freely and openly without stress and without thinking. There's no thinking, you're just kind of flowing and enjoying yourself. And in those moments, you want to just be grateful. So like today, I get to work with my hands. I'm grateful for these awesome tools that I was given. So while you're working, just think of something that you're grateful for. It can be anything. Maybe you're grateful for your caregiver, maybe your best friend, your pets, or just how sunny and pretty it is today. You know, maybe the fact that you don't need to be in a classroom today. I know a lot of kids are grateful for that. Alrighty. So now we're starting to get this kind of shape. And it kind of has like a little bit of an arch and flat on the bottom. So that's kind of what we're working towards. And now, what's that? Little hair on the table. There we go. So now I'm going to just push down a little bit at the tip here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to pull this guy up like that. Because right now we're making the body of the snail. And what we're going to do, which is so much fun, with these creations that we're making, is we're going to place them out in nature. So maybe your favorite hiking trail, or maybe even just your garden or front door. So you can kind of, you know, show the world what you created out of thin air that was totally your invention, and share with the world something that you want to express. And bring joy to people that you've never met before who get to see it. Or if this is a present, because Father's Day is coming up, so if you want to make something for your dad, or you know, whoever your male caregiver is, or just a father figure in your life, this might be kind of fun to give to them, because we get to paint this afterward. So now, if you see, I took 2 little teeny balls of clay, and I'm just kind of rolling them like this, because I am making antennas. So these little antennas are the little sensory receivers that this creature has out in nature. And they use it, if you've ever seen a snail, how they maneuver around is so cool. I love it. They use their little antennas and they come out and they retract, and they come out and retract, and it kind of gives them a view of where they're headed and their surroundings. We have different sensory tools, and that's what makes nature so cool, is we're all so different, and yet we're coexisting together, which is pretty amazing. Alrighty, so if you can see, this guy's starting to come together. 2 little antennas and a little body. So right now he looks just like a slug. He doesn't have a shell, he's just slugging. Alrighty. And at the tip, I kind of want to make it a little bit more pointy, because you know how snails, their little tails get pointy at the end. Awesome. And now I'm going to go back to this piece. And I don't think this guy's going to be able to hold the whole thing up himself. So what we may have to do, and like I said, we're just going to put a little bit of support on him. So I'm going to make a little ball over here. And then this is going to look crazy, but I'm going to make a little hole in the back of our snail. What this is going to do, it's going to act as a support. So it's actually going to hold his little shell open for him. Or it's going to hold it in place. So we check that out. Kind of looks like a boat now. Our little boat snail. Da, 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 da. Like a canoe. Alrighty. So again, let's try this. We're going to take our shell and stick it in there. And how are we doing now? Boom! Excellent. So now I'm going to move my little snail over here. So I'm going to make one more thing with you guys. Let him chill. I'm just kind of smoothing his back out a little bit to make sure that he's nice and propped up. Boom. And this is going to be fun to paint too later, because we got this cool swirl. And once that hardens a little bit more, we can even add a face to the snail, which would be really fun. All right, going back to our clay that we made from scratch, we're going to make something new. All righty. Move this guy actually a little bit over here so he's out of our way. All righty. So now I'm going to flatten this guy out. Da, da, da. And the awesome thing about this too is if you have a lot of excess clay, you can save that and it'll last. You can just put it in your refrigerator. And then it's another craft in the future that you can make waiting for you. Bam. So here we go. Flattening, flattening. Awesome. So cool that we can make this with stuff from our house. There's so many things like that that are just available to us. You know, if ever you're sitting at home, everybody's in quarantine right now, and you're, you know, not sure what to do, you're starting to get bored. There's so many do-it-yourself things that you can do and things that are available to you right in your own home. You don't need to, you know, go crazy. Because the beautiful thing about creation is everybody is capable of creating from thin air. So you can always entertain yourself. You don't need to look outward necessarily. Everything is already inside you, ready to come out and be created. Alrighty. And as you saw, I put a little bit of flour in here because it was actually a little moist. And I want to dry it out a little bit. Alrighty. Here we go. Last piece. I'm going to cut this. And I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter. This one's super easy. This, I'm going to roll into a ball. So it's about the size of my palm. Awesome. And then I'm going to flatten it out like that. It's a nice little flat circle. Put a little bit of water to smooth out the edges. And another thing I'm grateful for is you guys. Thanks so much for coming to learn and also share whatever you're creating, because that is so cool. That's awesome that you took the time today to learn something new. Or maybe you already knew how to do this and you just want to check it out and hang out with us and maybe get inspired. Whatever your reason for being here, I am grateful. And here we go. We got our little circle. Awesome. And lastly, a little piece here. We're going to roll it up. We'll roll it up like this. That's kind of the shape. And it's about that thick. And you'll see it kind of tapers a little bit more towards the top here because we're making the mushroom stem. Here we go. Just pushing down. Awesome. Cool. So now we have a little mushroom stem. How cute. And now, can you guess what this is? Let's see. That's right, this is the cat. So it looks like a little hat. Kind of looks like the Mario Brothers mushroom. I'm sure some of you guys have played that. Can't be the only one. Alrighty guys, so thank you so much for joining me. We have now a little snail and a little mushroom. I'm gonna bring my camera down so you can see. Da-da-da, whoa. Little snail, little mushroom. Perfect. And when he dries, the cool thing, we're gonna paint all of this. But for today, we just got to play with clay, which is pretty awesome. So thanks so much for joining me. My name is Keenan Spencer, and yeah, stay inspired.
What? Wait, Keenan, you're not done yet. I have some questions for you.
Yeah.
So show us. Have you created anything? What have you created using this, and what does it look like after you painted it?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm right now in a different location. So I have a studio,
okay.
And all of my pieces are in my studio. But I use acrylic paint. So acrylic paint is really cool because it dries really quickly. So you can kind of keep layering as much as you want. You get these really cool textures, and especially when you're working with eco clay, you don't want to use oils necessarily, because sometimes that has a weird reaction with the clay. So let's stick with acrylics for now. And then if you want to just sit it out in the sun, you can let it bake out there. It usually takes like maybe a day or two to sit in the hot sun, or you can stick it in your oven and take like at 250 degrees with your parents' permission. They can show you how to do it. And yeah, that's how you do it. And then you can paint away to make whatever you want.
And you were saying you could put the snails or the mushrooms or whatever. Well, you can make mushrooms too, you said?
Yeah, you can make mushrooms, you can make snails. So all of those things you can put out into nature and in your garden, or if you want to just have them as like little statues around your house, like little pieces that you created, that would be awesome too.
I've seen stuff around the neighborhood, like random things around the neighborhood. Mick, Charlie, do you have any questions for Keenan?
No, not really. Thank you for this. This is amazing.
Absolutely, of course. No problem. Thanks for
And what
having me.
That was a really beautiful workshop and so much fun. I'm excited to, I hope I see a lot of these popping up in the neighborhoods after this workshop.
Yay, me too. That'd be awesome. I'll keep an eye out.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have another question. What's how can people get a see your other work, or do you have any artwork, or do you have stuff that people can see?
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to do kind of more mystical paintings, so things that involve kind of like the mystical world. And you can check me out on the Alchemist Easel. So if you go on Instagram or on Facebook, yeah, you can find my stuff there. I do a lot of big paintings, resin and acrylic, which is another thing you can do on this. You can use resin, which makes it like a really hard, shiny surface. So it looks like it was glazed, which is pretty cool too.
Very cool. Somebody on our feed asked, can you use that stuff for pottery? Can you make something for pottery?
Actually, you can. That will require resin though, because I think I actually haven't tried it yet, using it to like fill with a liquid. But I think if you were to fill it with the liquid with just the acrylic on it, it probably would, get a little messy. So I would suggest putting a little resin coating on it, and then you can pour liquid on it or whatever you want, and it'll be safe.
When you say resin coating, what do you mean?
So there's a cool formula. So it's like 50% resin, 50% epoxy, and you pour those two into a cup. And with that, it creates like a glue substance, and you can paint that like all over. Say you're gonna paint it on this little guy today. We can paint it on him, and it'll harden, and it'll feel like a plastic, and it'll look like a shiny plastic coating. And it's water resistant, so yeah, you can leave it outside for however long you want. It'll protect the paint layer of acrylic underneath it.
That is really helpful.
Do kids need to have help when they're doing things with resin?
Yeah, so if you have a parent with you or a guardian, just make sure they're there with you so they can help you kind of maybe measure, because resin and epoxy is not edible. So those items are actually more toxic. So we can't ingest those. Whereas this is like totally safe. We could actually just like eat this. But I would suggest, yeah, having a parent there with you or a guardian to kind of keep an eye on things.
Unless your guardian is a gremlin and just eats everything.
That's true. Yeah, if your guardian's a gremlin, then maybe find a new guardian.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Keenan, what is a project that you're working on right now that you're excited about?
Well, I'm actually really excited about a project I'm working on. So I love working with mixed media. And mixed media means that we use all different substances and all types of different textures. So it's not just paint and canvas. Like I use broken mirror sometimes, I'll use string, I'll use pretty much anything, foil, sparkles. So this piece I'm working on right now has pieces of broken glass. And it's a hands like this, and the pieces of glass are inside the painted acrylic hands on this canvas. And the background is like this really beautiful kind of psychedelic, swirling, undulating colors. And it symbolizes like the pieces of a person. So this girl is holding it like this, and all the fragmented mirrors are pieces of herself and different reflections and views of her. So like, it kind of means the way a bunch of different eyes see this one person. She's holding that in her hand. All those different perspectives make up what her perceived image is. So that might have gotten a little confusing, but it's a little heady maybe for kids. But yeah, it just means it's just it's fun to work with different mixed medias because it keeps it fresh and interesting. And art, like I said before, no mistakes. You can do whatever you want. It's a playground.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
what would you tell yourself? When you were a kid? Like, if you could say anything when you were like 9 years old.
if I could tell my little self anything, I would say, don't fear making mistakes. because that is crippling. I think in order for us to grow and get better as people and in the world around us, we have to be okay with not being perfect. And in today's society, especially with kids are always seeing all these images of Instagram. I'm always seeing them on Instagram. They're not really realistic because we're starting to compare our flaws to someone's perfection, when in fact that person has a lot of flaws that aren't being seen by the world. They're just advertising what they want to be seen. So we can't be hard on ourselves. We have to allow ourselves to make some mistakes and just go with the flow and let ourselves grow. That would be what I'd tell myself, my little self.
That's really nice. I like that.